Hi peaches, it's Shaaba. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking on another video. Today we are diving deep into the world of blood-curdling mother-in-laws. I tried to make that scary, did it work? Look, they're not always horror villains, but more often than not, these just no mother-in-laws are something else. They cross a whole load of boundaries. Oh, and you know who else crosses boundaries that really gets on my tits? Spam callers. A big thank you to Incogni for partnering on today's video. Look, calls are scary enough, but calls from unknown numbers, oh, especially when they come at the most inconvenient times and they're scam or cold calls. And then there are the emails. Do not get me started. Well, do you ever wonder how these people get your contact details? They buy them. There is this shady world of data brokers and they scrape your name, your social security number, the details of your loved ones, even the things that you search for on the internet, your likes, your dislikes. They get all of this information about you and they sell it on without your consent, putting you at great annoyance. Hence the panic attack when I see a bajillion emails. I got a bunch of phone calls that are unknown that cause so much stress and that end up being spam. Well, if you would like to drastically reduce the spam, then Incogni could be a great tool for you. It's a simple sign up, you grant them the right to work for you, and they put in the work to find those moldy brownie data brokers so you don't have to. Incogni constantly put in the requests to take you off of these lists until you are removed. They don't stop. And they keep updated in real time too, so you can track their progress and see what a difference they are making, leaving you with significantly less spam calls and emails and significantly less panic attacks. If you fancy giving it a go, you can use my code Shaaba at incogni.com/Shaaba. The code is downstairs in the description and you'll get 60% off an annual plan. That is a great deal. And if you don't like the service in the first 30 days, you can get a full refund, so there's nothing to lose. Thanks Incogni. If only they could help us out with some of these mother-in-laws, huh? Shall we jump right in? Let's go. This OP is asking for us to give it to them straight. We're good at that. We can do that, can't we, peaches? My just no mother-in-law lied, they got caught, and they're now sending me gifts. Ooh, I'm intrigued. Let's read. We were, and still are, a bit more cautious than most when it comes to not getting COVID because of some immune issues in the family. That is totally understandable. I think sometimes people are like, oh my god, COVID is such like yesterday news. I think it's those same people that don't quite understand how colds work and flu and how many strains have actually affected many people for a very long time, and it's a real sense of privilege to not have to think about that. Sometimes people do really need to think about this. So COVID is not a trendy buzzword, it just happens to be one, like the most recent variant on this list of things that people are always trying to be protective from. So I understand you, babe, you do what you need to do. My in-laws know this, and the COVID precautions have been a major boundary issue the last few years through the thick of the pandemic. Well, fast forward to a recent visit that I agreed to get together with my just no mother-in-law. We've had an endless list of issues to deal with. I don't know where to start, but let's just summarize it as her not knowing what a boundary is and how to respect it, and she's 100% a narcissist, says OP. Now for the recent visit. It was fine, and I always fool myself into being pleasantly surprised. And then BAM! The day after we saw her for multiple hours, she sent a text saying that her boyfriend made her tell us that she knew she had COVID, but chose not to say anything. Well, I mean, I say good on the boyfriend. It's really frustrating that the boyfriend could not have, knowing your rules, said it before you came. It's not even just COVID, right? It's just like if somebody has a cold, you don't really want to be around people who are very ill. If I have a cold, I'll call someone up and be like, hey, I have a cold. Do you still want to do today or should we reschedule? It's just a kind thing to do. So yes, good for boyfriend for saying something, but why after the fact when there is nothing you can do about it? That's very frustrating. It doesn't mean it's useless though, because now you know you cannot pass it on to other people. So she had COVID during the visit, but only sniffles, so she wasn't contagious. That's not how it works. You're so right, OP. That's not how it works. On the NHS website, it says that you're contagious until your symptoms have gone. And for things like COVID, there's typically like a time barrier from when symptoms stop appearing plus a couple of days, or from the moment you start seeing symptoms, like a week to 2 weeks. But hey, why listen to the NHS when you can listen to just no mother-in-law? Her boyfriend is much more human than her, says OP, and I appreciate that he forced her to let us know, but we were fuming. The day after, we had a phone call with her and really took the time to let her know all of our thoughts. She listened, to her credit, but she demonstrated that she didn't really learn anything because her main takeaway is that she wanted us to visit her more. What? Well, if just no mother-in-law is a narcissist, as you have stated here, one of the common sort of issues, obstacles that narcissists have to go through is distinguishing between a narrative and actual reality. It's a really difficult thing to do. Most people who are narcissists but don't understand how to manage it will often live in their own versions of reality, which is why things like gaslighting can sometimes happen, or things might not really seem to make sense because they're living in a different version of reality to what you are. It's not their fault, it's still their problem. And it seems that somehow you explaining your frustration frustrations has led to your just no mother-in-law feeling like, oh, well, clearly if it happens this way, this solves the problem. I can't be in the wrong if you had come to me. It doesn't make sense. Objectively, it does not make sense. But to mother-in-law, it makes sense. And it's about bridging that gap in communication. That's where the fix can be found. Anywho, now she's sending us all these presents, texting us and me randomly to let us know all these random little things like she's at a museum, and I hate it. So I'm assuming this is new behaviour that she doesn't normally do. Perhaps this is coming from guilt. Maybe she's like, oh no, I did a bad thing. You told me not to do it. I did it anyway. I lied to you. The truth has now come out and I'm feeling guilty, and one of two things are happening, perhaps both. She could be doing these things because she is feeling really bad and she's wanting to keep communication open with you out of that guilt, or it could be that she's testing boundaries of how much you are going to communicate back to see how much of a bridge she has burnt by directly lying to your face and leaving you open to infection when you specifically said you have a problem with that. Nothing she does or says is going to fix what she did other than time and demonstration of her respect for our boundaries. So what would you do next? Okay, giving it to you straight. It's really contextual. I know it's such an annoying answer, but for me personally, it really depends on how far down this line you are. You've said, I don't know where to start. There's a whole list of things. She doesn't know boundaries. Clearly, this isn't the first time. If it's really affecting your well-being, both mentally and seemingly physically, it sounds like maybe you're in a position where you don't want to deal with this anymore, and so you need to enforce stronger boundaries than what you've done before. I think you're so right that time and demonstration of respect and boundaries is the only thing that will change it. The problem is, if mother-in-law does have an issue that is making her act this way, and she's not addressing the root of that issue, she's not going to be able to change her behavior. You can't just expect someone to change without having a growth in some kind of mindset. You can't expect someone to grow if you're not giving them the tools to grow. And it might not be your position to give them the tools, maybe your job in this situation, because you're the one that's wanting it fixed, and by you I don't mean just you OP, but your family network, right, is to signpost to the people that are able to provide the support to allow mother-in-law to grow. Thus, my 3-step plan, I think. Number 1, you need to decide along with your family, right, your partner, if this is something that you want to put time and effort into, because often, and if mother-in-law is a narcissist, it's a tricky journey. It's a really big step for people who are narcissists to try and get help, because the condition, it's an endless cycle where they don't feel like they need help, and that cycle can really hurt you in the meantime. So you can absolutely be supportive if that's something that you are able to do, but if it's not, you can also choose to go no contact. I would never just jump to that conclusion at all. It's a huge thing to do. It's very difficult. It might be entirely inappropriate. Only you will know if that is a place that you are in. But I think it's really important, making fully informed decisions, to know that you don't have to be in that position. If there is a wave that is constantly hurting you, in this case, it's a disrespect of boundaries, you don't just have to get up each time and face the next wave. Strength, courage can also come in stepping to one side and not being hit by that wave. Both of them are very viable options, and only you can decide which one's the right one. So that's the first thing. Secondly, if you do want help, it would be to say, hey, you have an issue and you need help, and you need support because you're not respecting boundaries, and gifts aren't going to cut it, and messages aren't going to cut it. We need to work on this properly. With that, you need to expand your support network to include someone who can truly help your mother-in-law with those problems. And then step 3, as you said, time. I think that's really, really important, and sometimes it can be really tricky, especially when a trust is gone and you need to rebuild that trust because you don't know where it's coming from. Sometimes you're going to get hurt again. That's also a thing that happens, annoyingly. But if you value this relationship, or you value your partner and your partner really values that relationship, sometimes that's something that we need to go through. It's not easy though. It's very tricky. I'm really sorry, and I'm really hoping you didn't get COVID. She knew she had COVID and she lied about it. Chose not to tell us is nicer than she deserves. I would be hard pressed to find a reason to see someone like this again. See, that's so easy to say, but it's also so hard to enact, especially when it's a mother-in-law and it's not your decision, right? You are not the only person. There is a relationship in between you that helps connect that bridge, and if you're not on the same page, it's really hard for you to actually implement those boundaries, to be like, I'm not going to see you again. Consequences, she needs consequences. It's not enough that she exposed you to an illness that she knew she had, because doing so didn't affect her negatively. Talking to her similarly has no effect because she only cares about herself, so telling her how her behavior affects others just tells her that she can hurt others and get away with it. So now we reach the stage where you impose consequences for the actions. It's real simple for this one, says this commenter, because she told you what the most effective one would be. She wants you to visit more, so you need to cut her off for a while. Make sure she knows that the behavior is to blame, and that if she doesn't respect rules, that she won't get what she wants. I'd say a couple of months with no contact would be a good start. Block her number, reject deliveries, and make sure her boyfriend knows what's up so he doesn't try contacting you for her. Every time she breaks a rule, she gets a consequence in return. It's the only way that she'll learn. I don't know how I feel about this. I truly don't know. Do you know why this is making me feel some kind of way? I have dealt with a true bona fide narcissist in my life. I have dealt with abuse from somebody, and I know that narcissists don't equal abuse. It's not narcissistic abuse, it's abuse. In my situation, it was abuse from somebody who could not manage their NPD. And what I've been told from many therapists who specialize in NPD is that this consequence of pulling away company, of removing love and love bombing, this using love and contact as a reward system, is exactly what narcissists do. It's not intentional, I appreciate that, but just because it's not your fault doesn't mean that it's not your problem. And so that's why this makes me feel some kind of way, because it just doesn't sound right to use that same tactic back to somebody who is more inclined, where their brains are just hardwired to do that to you in the first place. It's not fantastic. Instead, what a therapist would say would be to cut them off. Not an ultimatum, not a reward or punishment system, but just, I can't deal with this, blah. I'm doing that for me. You're not letting other people make a decision and bringing them back in their lives in a way that you're not in control of. You're just saying, this isn't working for me, goodbye. But I also appreciate that not all situations work like that, because you might not want to entirely cut someone off, or you might not be in a position to not allow somebody to have that chance to grow. Sometimes, as in my situation, I'm not in any way interested in seeing certain people grow. If they do grow, great, amazing, grow over there. I don't want you in my life, regardless of whether you're an amazing person or exactly the same. And I can only be in control of my behaviors, which is why it's easier for me to just be like, no. And which is why this comment does make me feel some kind of way. But I'd be really interested in knowing your thoughts, my loves. What do you think about this tactic of this reward system? And what do you think that OP should do? OP, my love, I hope it gets better for you. And I should probably have said one of the biggest steps is to make sure that you and your partner are on the same page with this, because with it being their mother, especially, you need to have like a united front with whatever approach you use going forward to protect yourself. Best of luck. All right, let's find another. Bloop. Insulting or innocent? Ooh, 2 flags. Let's see. I've known my mother-in-law for 12 years. I've been married to her son for almost 8. Wow, that's very long term. My husband always chooses me over her need to be the center of attention, and years ago he had to call her out when I started noticing that she would ignore me talking to her. She claimed it was because she didn't know how to talk to me since I have more education. I know she's insecure, but it doesn't justify outright ignoring me. This is a very tricky situation. Wow. Fast forward to now. Her and I have an okay relationship, but she still ignores me from time to time. I'm not sure why, but my husband still calls it out. He's more straight up, whereas I will just say, did you hear me? I'm sorry that you have to go through this. I will also say it's really nice though, brownie badge to your husband for being so supportive and so aware of the situation. We rarely see this on Just No Mother-in-Laws. We now have an 18-month-old. Congratulations. And I sense that she has a competition with him, which is so annoying because she won't win. Ooh. She called herself mum once to my baby, but that hasn't happened since. Okay. Last week, she was introducing me, my husband, and my toddler to someone, and she first introduced me as my husband's best half. That's cute. And then she said, well, I actually think he, our toddler, is his best half. And I said, well, he's a whole of both of us. So I want to believe that she wasn't trying to be mean, but part of me wonders if her intention was not so nice. Interesting. Aw, well, I'm really glad that you came to an objective place, because I think that demonstrates a huge level of self-awareness to be like, hey, I have a loaded history with this person. I'm feeling some kind of way over this comment, and I can't look at it clearly. So, others, please help me with this. I personally would say, this is innocent. That is my flag. OP's asking here, am I overreacting? I don't think you're overreacting, babe. I totally get why you are acting the way that you are acting, because there is a loaded history. It makes sense that you're going to have your guard up. Don't know what kind of guard this is, but we're rolling with it. And it makes sense that you will question little moves like this. But from my point of view, reading what I've seen here, this does kind of feel innocent to me. I feel like it was a real compliment by saying best half, and then an extra compliment by saying, oh, I love the kid, right? Like, it was just a silly worded way of being like, oh, and they have a cute baby that I also like too. I personally don't see that as a dig to you. Do other people agree? It sounds like she was trying to make a play on the old expression of calling my spouse my better half. Absolutely. Maybe she's trying to compliment you by changing it to best, and then it got awkward when she talked about your son. I think that's what happens too. Like, it was just a poorly worded thing to be like, oh, and I forgot they had this gorgeous child, and I actually really, really love the child. It's like, it's just a grandparent thing to say. It could be malicious, but I think it's more likely innocent. It sounds like she was just trying to say that the little one was the best thing that's ever happened, and the joke/phrasing landed awkwardly. Landed awkwardly is a great phrase. I'm in total agreement with this. Mother-in-law has probably irked you that much over the years. It's hard to see her comment as not having a sly dig. I totally see that, which is why I appreciate you coming here, and it sounds like the internet has helped with providing some perspective. A good lesson, I think, in learning that sometimes a tree is just a tree, and sometimes we need to see the forest for the tree and gain that little bit of perspective. That was a cute one. Oh, I think it's because the mother-in-law wasn't a dick, and it's just nice when that happens, because it's rare that you see it on these forums that are like obviously understandably so loaded one way. My just no mother-in-law screenshot social media screens for screensavers. Am I overreacting? Let's see. My dear husband and I, both 26, have had our first baby, congratulations, who's also the first grandchild on his side earlier this year. We also moved 2 states away from where his family lived shortly after little one was born for a new job opportunity. Lot of change for you, wow. When we announced that we were pregnant, mother-in-law got weird real fast. She definitely struggles with emotional incest when my amazing husband is unfazed, as in it seems like she thinks that the husband should be filling her emotional needs instead of my father-in-law, but my husband could care less. They never had a close relationship in my husband's eyes, and this didn't become glaringly apparent until the pregnancy, and we stopped being oblivious to it. Behaviours escalated as my due date approached. For example, my mother-in-law took her gift back home with her for the baby shower when she was told that she couldn't drive all of our gifts to our house 30 minutes away. My car was plenty big, I didn't need the help, and husband wasn't looking to hang out with her. Okay, it does make perfect sense as to why after a shower you wouldn't want extra time, so I can see the overreaction from mother-in-law there. 6 weeks before I was due, she started texting my husband weekly to hang out. Only him though, and if he said no, she wouldn't respond, or she'd send a dissatisfied emoji. Oh, that's a very mum thing to do. I'm not angry with you, dear, I'm just disappointed. She also told folks at our church that his career went out the window because of the baby, which is not only inaccurate, but we'd always planned for the timing for our first because he thought it'd be easier in this gap. Mother-in-law is sounding trickier and trickier. After little one was born, they were pissed that they couldn't come immediately to the hospital, even though it was after visiting hours, and they showed up unannounced the next day and empty-handed. It is bratty for me to expect a gift, I understand that, but they didn't bring a balloon, a card, or anything at all. Mother-in-law said that she looked at flowers and didn't like them, so she didn't get anything. That is a little bit bratty. I don't know, I'm trying to see it from both sides of view, and like, if they've just come because there was a baby, maybe she thought that flowers would just be more difficult for you to maintain, which I can also understand. I wouldn't read into the gift thing, but she definitely sounds tricky. Mother-in-law texted us every 3 days until we moved, asking to see, hold, or spend time with baby. She didn't ask how we were doing or if everyone was healthy and healing, just over and over when she could see the baby next. The weekend we were moving, they booked hotel reservations near our new apartment and told us the night before that we were leaving that they would see us the next day, and failed to see anything wrong with that even to this day. Okay, I'm hearing that your parents have issues with boundaries. There's definitely a boundary issue. All this to say, we've put mother-in-law on an info diet and a fairly low contact, although she doesn't normally text or call husband anyway because she believes that's his responsibility. However, the last few times that we've seen her, she's proudly shown her phone lock screen to us, and it's been pictures of little one that I've posted on social media. It bothers me and husband, but we can't figure out the explanation as to why. She doesn't have Facebook, only Instagram, and after the first time she did it, I restricted her from seeing things on my Instagram. Not blocked, but she couldn't view the stories. Family members have screenshot some things and sent them to her, and she has made those her lock screen. That is kind of weird that she's not brought it up, that she doesn't know that she's been restricted. Does she know that she's restricted? Before anyone says that I should restrict the other family members or that she's asking them to look, she doesn't know socials well enough to know that she's restricted. She just assumes that I post on Facebook instead of Insta, and she doesn't have a Facebook account. Restricting the other family members also isn't an option because I don't mind them seeing or sharing the post with her. It's just wild to me that she wouldn't feel bothered making a screenshot of someone else's screenshot of my post on her lock screen. Okay, this is very long. We'll just finish before we unpack. Every time she shows it off like it's cute, and I want to ask her to stop or at least have a good explanation as to why it feels so creepy. I honestly do believe that you're overreacting a little bit here. I see why it's odd because she doesn't have access to it directly. It sounds like to me that what your niggle is understanding how she's getting them. If it is from family members and you don't mind family members sharing it, yes, okay, I'm understanding this a little bit more. I think what your problem is not what you think the problem is. You think that your problem is with the screensaver. I think your problem, from what you have said to us, isn't the screensaver. It's that she doesn't seem to know that she shouldn't be getting access to these in the first place, and therefore you're perhaps feeling some level of guilt, or maybe guilt's the wrong word, but like you're preparing yourself for this potential conflict because you're waiting for mother-in-law to find out that you have restricted her in some way, but you also don't want her to know, understandably, because you don't want the conflict to happen. But you're in this weird limbo because you're also okay with other people sharing it, which is understandable that they would do. Maybe they do just be like, oh, this one's such a cute one of your little one, exclamation mark. Not at all thinking of the fact that you've restricted because they probably don't know, or the fact that she might not also have it. You know, like sometimes I'll share things and be like, cute photo boo, to my sister, and obviously she's seen it because she's the one that posted it herself, and she wouldn't think anything twice of like, why are you sending the photo back to me? It's just how you communicate sometimes. So the question is, should you be bothered? I don't think you should be bothered. If you're okay with other people sharing it with her, I actually think this is a really messy thing that's happening in your head, because two things can't be true to me. You're saying that you're okay with people sharing it, but you have an issue with her having it as your lock screen, and clearly you're not okay with her seeing it because you've restricted it in the first place. So either you're not actually okay with other people sharing it, and that is where your issue is lying, and you need to do some self-exploration inside, or the issue that you have is actually greater than this, and this is just one example that your brain is like latching onto as an opportunity to be like, I still have unresolved issues with my just no mother-in-law, and it's manifesting in the fact that there's this screenshot on her phone, which isn't actually a problem in itself. It's the principle. So yes, I do think that you're overreacting. I also think that maybe in putting this here, you need some more self-exploration, OP, as to what your issue is, and you need to face that reality yourself. I definitely think that your mother-in-law sounds tricky, but in the grand scheme of things, maybe this is controversial, I think maybe it is a little bit of an overreaction about the phone screen screen, because how is she to know that she's not supposed to receive that if you haven't told her and you're okay with other people sending it to her? It definitely feels like a doorway to something bigger. Should we see what other people have to say? I'd let it go. Since you don't mind others accessing your photos in social, you can't control what happens after, so don't drive yourself crazy. This wouldn't be my hill to die on. At least 70% of grandparents I know use photos of the grandkids as screensavers or locked screenshots. See, and it's not even like the mother-in-law is doing it to you to be like, haha, even though you're restricting me, I can see it, because you're saying very confidently that you don't think that she knows that she's restricted. It all feels a little bit petty. If I'm being really, really honest, I don't think the mother-in-law has been bad on this specific occasion with the phone screen, and it sounds like this is a you problem that you need to open up about your problem with her. Is that alright? Does that make sense? I don't mean to be controversial. Is it just me, or the mother-in-law's like kind of tame in this one today? Let's do a couple more. My mother-in-law cannot accept our medically complex daughter. Did I jinx it by saying that they're a bit tame today? We're going to have some horrible ones now. Oh no! OP is again asking if they're overreacting. Let's see. I don't want to go into many details for privacy reasons. My daughter is 12 weeks old and due to a birth injury will likely have physical and developmental delays. It's been hard, but my husband and I are dealing with things pretty well, all things considered. My mother-in-law not so much. Firstly, congratulations on the old squish, my love. I'm sorry things are tricky and that mother-in-law doesn't seem to be helping. Hope we can help you out. She's been coming over around twice a week since we got home from NICU a month ago to try to give us a break. Wow. And of course, just the fact that you've been in NICU suggests that you've gone through an incredibly hard time. So that's kind of nice, I think, of mother-in-law, as long as she's being helpful and not more of a hindrance. It isn't relaxing for me because she's constantly trying to make my daughter do things that she's not ready or capable of doing. Very annoying. Some of these things aren't even developmentally appropriate for a baby her age. She is 12 weeks old. She has been through a lot. Give her a break, mother-in-law. Like last week, I yelled at her to stop snapping her fingers at my daughter. She snaps and claps right next to her ears to try to elicit a startle response. That's unkind to anyone. Not even just to a baby, but to anybody. Like, could you imagine doing that to an adult? Oh, it's like when people do it to those goats and they like, yeah. Let's read on. My daughter is hard of hearing and doesn't respond to loud noises. Snapping at her like a misbehaving dog won't change that. I totally appreciate where you're coming from. Maybe your delivery could have been nicer, but this is absolutely a mother-in-law doing something wrong issue, and you should be telling her so. Every time my daughter doesn't do what she wants her to do, she gets this really glum look on her face and tries to guilt her. Again, she's also hard of hearing, by asking things like, why won't you do X for grandma? Like, who tries to guilt a baby? Also, your baby is 12 weeks old. Your baby doesn't understand those words. What is grandma doing? Yesterday, she decided that she had to tell me about her dream in which my daughter was mocking her by pretending to do something but not actually doing it. I told my husband that her behaviour, especially the mocking dream comment, has been bothering me. I don't want her caring for my baby until she's gotten over whatever it feels that she needs to get over and can accept my baby for what she is capable of, which is being adorable and funny. It sounds like you're being such a supportive parent. I love that for you. My husband agreed to talk to her, but considering she's a narcissist through and through, I don't see the conversation going over very well. This is the second time this video that was seeing the word narcissist, and I wanted to point out, because I've seen like the comments and discussion posts on it in the comments section. I totally agree that sometimes narcissists is used wrong, just in wider society. I want to clarify that I myself am not diagnosing anybody a narcissist. OP is telling us these things, and just like with everything else, we have to take it on face value of what we are seeing. I also think that it's important to mention that whilst not everybody in the world gets the term right, and like many things, people can overuse terms and overdiagnose terms when they are not right in doing so, we also have to remember that there is a reason that we are on this forum, and that the people on this forum are not an average sample of society. There is likely to be more narcissists being discussed in these groups because they're places that people come to specifically to get help from tricky situations. Just like not every mother-in-law is an absolute horrible nightmare mother-in-law. And the fact that there's a disproportionate amount of not fantastic mother-in-laws here doesn't mean that OPs are lying. It's just a forum that is meant specifically for people to get help. So I just wanted to put that out there because some of the conversations that happen in the comments around narcissism need a whole lot of perspective. About this mother-in-law specifically, wow, your granddaughter is 12 weeks old. Regardless of whether she has physical and developmental delays, she has been in NICU for the longest time. I don't understand how people cannot see how this is not supportive, and I totally agree with you, mum, that this is not the kind of support that your baby needs. Imagine when she is able to like listen and comprehend, or if she is picking up these little like sayings and just like gets this inner guilt of, oh, I don't do things right. Like if people can't do things, the fact that you're guilt tripping them into doing that, like if your child does have long-term issues, that's not going to be helpful to hear. That's such a horrible thing to say. You don't pressure them and guilt them into doing things that they're physically not capable or ready to do. It's not a personal thing, grandma. Like stop trying to shock start the baby. That's not how it works. Oh Lord. I'm not trying to be harsh here. You are the parent of a disabled child. Your job first and foremost is to protect her. Having a close caregiver mock her and belittle her development is remarkably harmful, and she needs to be loved unconditionally, and your mother-in-law clearly isn't capable. I totally agree. Your mother-in-law needs to grow And I definitely feel that you're doing the right thing by putting those boundaries in place and by making it really clear that she needs to grow if she wants to look after your child. When would it ever be normal to clap and snap in someone's ear, developmental delay or not? No 3-month-old is going to respond how you want them to. She isn't a trained pet and your mother-in-law is nuts. You need to snap your fingers right next to her face and tell her to do things. Could you imagine? Mother-in-law, stop being horrible to my baby. Oh, all right, let's do one more. I definitely jinxed it. That was a bad mother-in-law. Naughty mother-in-law. And no, OP, I do not think you're overreacting. I think you're just doing what's best for your child. And I hope that your husband's on the same page. All right, one final one. My mother-in-law stares me down and makes odd comments to me. This sounds very ominous. I've been with my husband for almost 10 years. Congratulations, that's a long time. And his mother's been a massive issue the entire time. Oh, enmeshment. That's such a funny word. Enmeshment. Enmeshment. I like it. Enmeshment was a big problem for years until I told my husband that he needed to set boundaries. He did. She flipped out and cried endlessly. Enmeshment. I think she accepted it eventually, but when she visits us or we go to her, she stares me down. Not like a glance. It's the kind that you can feel even if you're not looking. Oh my god, that just sent like a shiver down my spine. I try to stare back, but she doesn't stop. Sometimes she stands right next to me whilst I'm cooking and just stares. Oh, my husband is blind to her weird shenanigans and it makes me so uneasy. It's just this hollow-eyed stare. This genuinely sounds like something out of a horror movie. This is horrible. She makes a lot of odd passive-aggressive comments. For example, we were painting my new home together once and she made a mess, which is totally fine. And then she said, "Oh my god, you must want to kill me. You must think I'm so stupid." I was really floored by that because I wasn't mad at her at all. And then when she retold the story to other family members, she said, "Oh, I could tell Kira wanted to murder me for making such a mess." She is painting you as the villain. This is genuinely a great plot for a horror movie. And when you know that to be true, you know that this is not a good situation for you to be in. Mother-in-law is messed up and she is a calculated bean. I see you, mother-in-law. Again, I never said a word to her or even gave her a look when she made the mess. Other times, if she's making a simple little mistake like turning the TV up too loud, she'll say, "Oh, you must think I'm such a dumb, useless idiot." And she says this a lot and in front of people. I've never called her dumb or useless. I can't understand this behavior. It's embarrassing. Then people look at me as though this is something I've truly said and not just her making wild assumptions. That is why she's doing it, babe. That is why she's doing it. This is dangerous mother-in-law. Beep boop, beep boop. You cover up that mother-in-law and catch up and you stick her on a pole because this is a big red flag alert. Can someone please explain this? I just did the staring and these weird comments. The staring is weird. I'm laughing because I'm nervous. I would feel so uncomfortable. This is genuinely what people do when they need a lot of help and you can honestly feel like they're going to harm you. And that is not okay. Oh my god. I feel like she's trying to make me look bad. Why would I even think that she's dumb, useless idiot? Why would you say that in front of other family members? I'm lost. No, you're not. You are not stupid, OP. You know why she's doing this. She's doing this because she's strategically trying to paint you as a villain in every situation that she can. And honestly, in these situations, you need to use strategy back. Seriously, when people are being this calculated, you have to use strategy back. My advice, when she says that in front of other people, I would make it really clear and kill with kindness and say something like, "Oh my goodness, Mary, you seem to be really down and out about yourself. I've never once thought these things about you, but clearly if you have these self-esteem issues, maybe you need some mental health help." And you should absolutely push on that because clearly she does need some help to get through what she's getting through. And the other thing that I'd absolutely be doing is letting your husband know. Like, it's really important that you say these things because in these kind of situations, it just escalates. And when it escalates, you want those people to be on your side and know that you are not being crazy. My mother-in-law used to pull this too. Hubby would tell her to quit the guilt trips. It doesn't work on me. It didn't stop her, but it did surprise him when I asked, "Would you like me to agree with your statement?" You could say that, maybe not in public, because that will make you seem worse in front of other people. With a firm voice, say, "I don't understand why you feel this way about yourself. You seem to say it quite often. It concerns me." "I certainly don't think this way about you. I'd be happy to help you find a good psychiatrist to help you work through these destructive thoughts." Very this is a good idea. "Nonsense. I would never say such a thing. That is both extreme and untrue. Wow, you must think I'm a terrible person if you believe I would ever say or think that." I like that one. That's so good. And Opie's actually said, "I like these. I'm going to try them out." I really hope it works, babe, because this truly is horror movie plot level weird. Make funny faces when she's staring. Yeah, honestly, anything to cut that tension, babe. Or maybe try and involve her. If you are cooking, be like, "Oh, mother-in-law, you seem to have lost your train of thought again. Here's a carrot. Cut it." Wow. Wow. This definitely went from like, "Oh, the mother-in-laws aren't too bad," to Peach, if you have any advice for people dealing with tricky mother-in-laws, please feel free to get your fuzzy butts downstairs and share them. If you have any other suggestions for dealing with these kinds of situations, I would be delighted to hear. And if you enjoyed these videos, do give them a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll catch you next time with another video. Be kind and have a great day. Bye.